all that sort of thing. The next step was the steam truck, or the steam wagon as they were known. What a revolution this would have been. 10 to 12 mile an hour. They would have been used off the rail heads and sidings, the wharf, and they would have run general goods out about 10 mile into industrial precincts, factories, and all of that sort of thing. You could see they were reasonably warm in winter, but bloody hot in summer. But a lot of the things that are starting to evolve into the modern era, sprung front end again. We have a drive chain still, no differential. But as these progressed on, we'll come to the Sentinel steam wagon, and you can see in the front axle we've now got kingpins. We have a drag link and everything out of the steering shaft coming down. Fully sprung, leaf spring front end, still being chain driven, but you can see the evolution of it. A bit more of a conventional cab with a door and roof, and just a little bit more conventional as time was progressing on. The Marshall tractor, oil tractor. Now, if you have a look at that Marshall and have a look at a steam traction engine, you can see that Marshall on the transition into oil engines have used a lot of its components from the traction engine. Steering, wheels, front end, chassis, a hell of a lot of stuff there is very, very similar to the traction engines. And they no doubt had all of that manufactured, but they fitted a Marshall oil engine on it. Big and cumbersome, absolutely no doubt, but certainly would have been an evolution, not cutting wood or firing coal or oil. The other way to run these boilers, a lot of the UK countries had oil-fired boilers as well, which they would have a tank on the roof and gravity feed into the boiler. The John Fowler traction engine here, owned by the late John Norris, who was our long-standing secretary from 1967 right through into the 80s. This engine would be the most filmed engine in Australia. It has been in feature films like Rush, ABC Productions, Big Country. It was even in, dare I say this, the Marlboro cigarette ad. It has featured in a whole raft of things along the journey, and John Norris had it here at Thrash in Federation Square in Melbourne. It has been everywhere. Victoria is the old girl's name, and she's still going strong. Another roller, Aveling Porter, owned by the Franks. And again, self-explanatory, it rolls roads and car parks and things that needed rolling. They could also run a belt on them and run a rock crusher as a part of that as well. So they had a couple of diversified uses. Normally they would tow a water cart and a living van behind them. Of course, they're not exactly the quickest conveyance, so when you were out working in the Shire and out on the roads, you would normally drop the living van, work away, come back to it at the night time, sleep there, park the engine alongside the living van. That would keep you warm, and away you would go in your working week. Tiny. This engine is one of the original engines to come here to these rally grounds in 1962. It was a roller like that, converted to a little traction engine. And before the days of Morrison, Blackburn, Slater and Gordon, we used to have a tug-of-war. So we'd line Tiny up right here. We had a big rope. We'd get all the kids out from the crowd. And the kids would think they were pulling the engine backwards, but of course it was rolling downhill. And when the kids would get over onto about a 45-degree angle and it was just about to scream victory, Tiny would go into gear and go boom, and it was like dominoes. But apparently that banged. Fun is banged. Cowley roller. owned by the president of the club, Mr. Phil Smythe, and his family. His son on board up there, future president, I reckon. Cowley Roller, guess what, folks? We made this here in Australia, in Ballarat, just down the bloody road. 1932, I think, this one. Oh, 28 yours, is it? Well, there you go, I was out. 1928 built. They built quite a few of these road rollers, made right here in Ballarat. It even says so, up there on the side of it. The next unit we have Hudson's Earth Moving. And a Caterpillar D8 with a V8. With a cable-operated scoop. Now, Mark Hutchins sitting up there and his two sons. I can tell you a bit of a funny story about these two boys. The other night, they didn't go home from school. They thought they'd go down to the skate park on their bike. They're very, very lucky to be here at this rally, according to their mother. Now, so cable operated, there we go. Scraper, scoop, that's how it was done. What could possibly go wrong? The Farmall Cub. Not quite sure whether that's a conventional cab on it or not. Yeah, it is it? A little horticulture, agricultural type tractor, flower growing. Notice how the driver's sitting offset. Mid-mounted toolbars would be underneath that, so you could work over the top of flowers or vegetables or whatever. Another Farmall here, and again, belt pulley on it, drawbar tractor, and they were very, very good at turning very tightly at headlands, working in tight spaces. Bloody dangerous on hills. Many of these are rolled over in undulating country. The Cub Cadet, made by International. A lawnmower, a little tractor that could be used in the garden or horticulture. A lot of the parks and garden areas had these, and you found that International, Massey Ferguson, Fordson were all strong where the dealerships were strong in the community. AEC. These units were military units originally. Of course, the English built AECs, front wheel assist, but they were primarily built for the military that found their way into private hands, and they were extensively used on boring machines for water, etc. This one came out of Queensland, owned by Warren Harris out of Ballarat, one of our committee members, and his grandson, I think, is in there. Yes. Oh, there he is, sitting up there as well. That's it, give him a wave. And on the back, Morris Ellis, General Engineer. He used to make tanks. That's right, we used to make this stuff. We didn't bring it in from bloody goddamn China. We used to make windmills and all of that. What an original old International. Harry's even shouted at a couple of new tyres. I'm impressed, Harry. A couple of nice fresh 700s on the front, son. Oh, ding dong, are they? Right. Not Dunlop. So, beautiful old truck. Thank you. Willie's Jeep. Well, I don't think I could ride. It's a right-hand, left-hand drive. Right-hand drive they came out in. This is a right-hand drive. The Willie's Jeeps, they made them where you could drop them out of aircraft. They dragged them out with parachutes. They did all sorts of things. Army, US, Australian, you name it, all used the Willie's Jeeps. Some of them had a spring steel chassis that was just the most unbelievable, flexible thing. They towed things, they abused them no end, but they just kept on going. But fuel economy was not what they were about. The little tug here, a Qantas airport. Well, it's got Qantas on it, but it's a tug, would have been used on airports. Typical size tug, Fokker Friendships F-27s. These were the units that would have towed them around back in the day. And in Australia, believe it or not, the F-27, which was very well known, the Fokker Friendships here in Australia, I don't think some of the older generation, most of them would have been on a Fokker. A lot of people don't realise that all the testing for Australia to get them a licence by the Department of Aviation was all done at Bacchus Marsh. They did nearly 9 months extensive loading and unloading and doing all the test flying at Bacchus Marsh. The Farmer 8. I don't think it came out with that. Mel is from Hamilton and he has a beautiful collection of tractors. This is the Farmer 8 made in Chicago. Sorry? All right. And now we were talking about these tractors yesterday, and Wannon Engineering actually fitted a bloody front end loader to this, and when it lifted up and was loaded, if it was offset, the weight was offset, they fell over. I am surprised at that, Mel. That's real, yes. So I can't believe they did that. I was just shattered. Wannon Engineering had a great name. Here we have another three-wheeled disaster. McCormick Farmer, very early model. Again, designed to work in headlands. Sorry? Yes, it spins on a dime and you have change. There you go. He said that 1 or 2 times. Belt pulley there. I know why he's got it covered, because it's right under your foot. But a belt pulley, drawbar tractor, PDO shaft on the back, no doubt 540 RPMs, which is pretty standard for all tractors. They have a 540 PDO shaft. Little 4-cylinder, most probably straight petrol, this one, or yeah, straight petrol. Yeah, and very unique, very early, F12. And you can look, a lot of these tractors were designed to pull all the equipment that the horses, draft horses and all that pulled, because farmers couldn't afford to buy a tractor and then buy all the implements. So the tractor manufacturers, International, McCormick, Hart, all designed tractors that they could modify the equipment that horses had worked for many, many years. And that is how they got farmers switching over from horses into tractors. What a revolution it would have been where you got up at 4:30, went down, got the horses out of the paddock, gave them a feed, put the nose bag on, gave them a feed, and then you worked them for a couple of hours, and then you had to unhitch, throw the traces over the back, walk them down, give them a drink, like I'm about to get one, thank you. Give them a drink and a feed, and then harness them back up and away you'd go again for a couple of hours. This went on all day. What a revolution to get a tractor like that you could start, drive till lunchtime, have a feed yourself, fuel it, and hopefully start again, and drive on and plough. So they would have done double the ground. So if you could plough 5 to 6 acres a day with your horses, you were going to do between 10 and 15 acres a day with the same implements with a tractor. And that's how they sold the equipment to do all this work. AW6. Now, these were manufactured in Australia. Right here at Geelong, ladies and gentlemen, this tractor was built, and they were a pretty strong tractor. Started on petrol, ran on Kero, switched them over when they got hot, and a lot of farmers made a lot of money out of these tractors. Still quite a lot of them getting around as well. Thank you, sir. The Blitz. This is a shed Blitz, and boy, does this have a unique history. This belonged to a fellow who lived just down the road, and this truck here welded the gas pipeline from Moomba to Sydney. A sole contractor, him and his brother, and they fold this bench down. They welded on this bench under that light of a night time because of the heat coming down from Moomba. They had a canopy on the back, an old welder that's sitting in there, and that's how they lived for nearly 5.5 years. His wife up and left him, so he had to come down, get his daughter and take her back, and she learnt to read and write by school at the air on a pedal AM HF radio. She's still alive, lives in Queensland, and this truck blew up going back up through Broken Hill, and he fitted an old Leyland Perkins engine, which is an old 6354 out of a wrecked Leyland truck at Silverstone Garage, and he welded an adapter plate up and fitted it all up and moved the radiator forward, modified the gear stick and everything in it, and it's still going to this day. He even from the Silverstone Hotel got the beer barrels and turned them into fuel tanks. So don't run over me. There we go. And it was still registered up until I got it. Matthew Harris 744, 6-cylinder, P6 Perkins engine. This tractor came out of Hamilton and was painted like by that. The man who owned it twice was a little auntie. If she didn't like the red or the orange colour, she decided she'd paint it blue with a white stripe. We call it the Vauxhall because it looks like a Vauxhall paint scheme. And we had Vauxhall badges on us for many years, and there were some expert tractor people who were taking pictures and sending them back to England asking them, is this the only Vauxhall tractor you ever built? Then we started getting a few letters about it, so I pulled all the Vauxhall badges off. The rear tyres aren't original, they're header tyres on it, just for us pulling around the traction engines and everything to give it a bit of extra grip. But 744 tractors were around everywhere. Grey Fergie coming up next. This spent 64 years of its life at the Vanilla Airport, along with 3 others, and designed to tow aircraft on the Vanilla Airport, from gliders to bugs to anything that came in. Then a university student came in and said this doesn't comply with OH&S about 4 or 5 years ago and condemned it. Then priced up an airport target 200,000, then wanted them back. Hence it didn't go back, but designed 2 black people on it, one driving, one standing there, straight bars down, the different bars for towing of the aircraft, and pulled them all over the airport to get fuel, out onto the taxi pads, out of the hangars, etc. A white Oliver with a GM percolating away. Little 371 percolating away, 2-stroke Detroit diesel, very distinct note, 2-stroke power, drawbar tractor. Oliver, white Oliver, well Oliver's synonymous in tractors, and little GM of course, Chamberlain out here, Super 90 would be the equivalent to it, and they have a very distinct sound. around to hear those GMs percolating away. Here we have a lovely little made-up tractor. It's Condomatic on a little simplicity lawnmower base with a Honda in it, Chinese Honda, because that's all you can get now. And with the garden seat, the beach umbrella, all you need now is a wine, and away you go. Little Southern Cross diesel again with the garden seat. Southern Cross, yes, guess what? We make them here in Toowoomba. Southern Cross diesel, they make pumps, diesel engines, all sorts of things. Little President tractor here. 8 horsepower, prefect motor. Ford prefect motor in them. Little 8 horsepower tractor, high clearance for doing flowers, veggies, along those lines, and of course towing the poop. International 434, the equivalent to a 35 Fergie 135, David Brown 440. This is in the same mould again. Wherever you had a strong dealership in International, Fergie or whatever, you would find that the tractors, those dealerships would dominate a particular area. David Brown, another English tractor. They were sold New Zealand, South Africa, Australia, again right around the world. Little diesel tractor, a 30D, and these were quite strong down around the Colac area for many, many years, David Brown, and pockets of them popped up everywhere. The grey Fergie, what can I say? They were sold around the world by a man who had a huge vision, Harry Ferguson, who of course originally worked for Henry Ford. And he had this concept of building a tractor and designing every implement you would need for horticulture, agriculture or industrial work. And Henry Ford thought he was a nutcase, or the board thought he was a nutcase and sacked him. And he designed the grey Fergie, but what he designed was a hydraulic system that was patented and has never been, no one else has ever been able to build it. So draft control, whatever you do ploughing, the top link right here on a spring, so the tractor will be doing that and the plough will sit. If you set it at 6 inches, it'll remain at 6 inches no matter what the tractor did. And he designed it in the 30s. He designed every implement, broadcaster for super, took shit, you name it, whatever you wanted to broadcast and use for fertilising your paddock. You could even sow grass seed with it as well. You broadcast it in the top and off the PDO shaft, spins it and would broadcast it out about 25 feet either side. Now this gentleman here is older than the tractor. He's 94 and he's still on a tractor, doing rather well. Not 94 and a half, God, I got it wrong. I suppose when you get to 94 and a half, every minute counts. So 16 and 18 horsepower. So the only way you can tell them, ladies and gentlemen, water pump mounted on the head, on the engine block, 16 horse, on the head, 18 horse. Again, thousands of these sold around the world, even behind the Iron Curtain. They were produced in the Ukraine. The next step, grey Fergie, 35 gold was the next step. These were the least amount of Ferguson tractors produced, and if you can find a gold Fergie floating around, a genuine one, they're good to have in your superannuation fund, trust me. No land tax. Yes. 35, the Lord Mayor of Warwickville, Floss Bibby here. Out here on his little 35, is it an X? No, it's a step. Oh, it should be a grey and gold, should it? Well, why did they wreck it? Oh, someone painted it red and grey, did they? silly sausage. Oh, right, 07 month 57. Well, it should be a gold. A golden grey. Little 35. What a great tractor. Around the 40 horsepower mark, 30 to 40 horsepower mark. And these tractors are right around the world. Everywhere. All right, you're 90 next week. Good God. Must be something in the water up your way. Another grey Fergie coming by. Another Harry Ferguson implement on the back. Scoop. Many a dam dug with one of these scoops. It was just how long have you got to do it. That was all. Rome wasn't built in the day. Neither was a farm dam. Clearly, 35 gold again. And again, 6-speed, high-low ratio, 2-stage clutch. The difference between that tractor and these tractors, they developed the 2-stage clutch, which allowed you to engage the PDO, have it spinning, and then lift it off the rest of the way on the second stage, and the tractor would drive forward. Big problem with the little greys, you had a slasher on the back, and it'd be spinning at 540, you'd throw the clutch, and the slasher would keep driving the tractor, and many of them ended up in dams and through fences, and quite funny to watch when blockies were buying them, I must say. Another gold 35, I reckon we've cornered the market here at Lake Goldsmith, but again, the first stage after the grey 30. Vanguard. These were the service vans that Ferguson had, that they used to drive around and do the servicing on the tractors and all the repairs. Now everyone went, oh, these have got the same engine as the tractor. Well, no. They're the same but different. Yes, they are a standard engine. Yes, they are similar in every other way except the bell housing. When you bolted the tractor engine into this, the gearbox didn't fit, and vice versa. If you pulled the engine out of this and went to bolt it up to the tractor, wasn't happening again. So they are a standard motor, but they are entirely different. Thank you, sir. Here's another thing that Harry Ferguson thought of. The poo cart. The Nightman. So, anyone who lives in Ballarat or in an older area, you notice that round town they have laneways down the back of your houses. And the reason was that the outhouse was down the back and there was a door in the back fence, and the nightman would come down and he would give you an empty one and swap it for your full one. And that went on every week. So the full ones went in the bottom and the empty ones were in the top. And of course we've all heard that saying, as flat as a stick carter's hat, because they used to carry the full one on their head. And the other thing was, of course, they did this mainly at night, and they would sit up here and eat have a thermos and a sanger while they were working of a night, like afternoon tea or supper and all of that as well. This is about the only one we believe left in existence. It operated in the Bendigo area, believe it or not, and it is a genuine Harry Ferguson designed poo cart. Now, there are older generational people who know exactly what I'm talking about, and there are some younger generational people who are absolutely bloody horrified. But this is the way it was. The other alternative was a long drop. And we won't go there. If anyone wants something to eat, there's plenty over at the Apex and all of that. The market carts, or industrial carts as they were known, and if you ever have been to the Victoria markets or the Footscray markets and all the veggie markets, there were hundreds of these things running around carting vegetables from one stall to a wholesaler to another, and ended up going out to the fruit and veggie shops when we used to have fruit and veggie shops that sold you really good quality fruit, not from Coles, Woolworths or Safeway or whatever. And they used to also deliver fruit. Yes, that's the whole thing. I mean, going back to horse and cart days, the baker, the milkman, they all used to deliver, and these things were in at the market or in factories, carting stuff around engineering, manufacturing plants like Massey Ferguson, GMH. They all had these sorts of units running around, putting parts in places where they were fitted for cars. Little two-cylinder Lister diesel on there. Not quite sure whether the Kelpie came with it at the time. All right. We're talking about Australian manufacturing, ladies and gentlemen, and here is one of the most iconic things Australia ever built. The Chamberlain Super 90s, Super 70s were a tractor that revolutionised broadacre farming in Australia. They were built in WA and they were sold all over Australia, through everywhere. Super 90s were Hertz GM two-stroke engines, and they broke the back of wheat farming altogether. You could absolutely plough and work a heck of a lot of ground with these tractors. In fact, the tractor was so bloody good, John Deere bought Chamberlain out to take them out of the market, and that's exactly what John Deere did. They bought Chamberlain out in WA, and over a period of 10 years completely shut the whole plant down, and it doesn't exist. But these were a tractor that you could hear bellowing from Parliament down near Bacchus Marsh through to the top end of the valley. In Victoria, right across New South Wales, WA, South Australia, these tractors absolutely bellow. Two straight. Way you go, Jim. Give her a roar. Indianapolis Bowline. Been around a long time. Indianapolis Bowline, Twin City in the 20s. And again, big six-cylinder tractor, a broadacre unit. Weren't the pick of the bunch in Australia. Very big in the US, the Indianapolis, but they sold in pockets here in Australia. But a fairly big tractor again, in the same mould as the Super 90s. Very long tractor, very good pulling tractor. Not a lot of them sold out here, owned by the Scoties. The Les Buckwell trailer on the back. Another Chamberlain with a Perkins, of course, made in WA. It's looking like a Mitsubishi at the moment. It's looking a little squeezy in there. So the object of these tractors was you could work the farm Monday to Saturday and jump in them and go to bloody church on Sunday. And they would do about 30 mile an hour. Tail End Charlie, who's ever heard of that, drove around Australia in the Red X Trail, a 9G Chamberlain. Every shire council, I reckon, in Australia had one of those fitted with a front-end loader and a post driver on the back. Fortunes, Super Major. And these tractors were around. Fortune sold English-built and designed tractor. They were out here. This tractor's been modified a bit. It does a bit of tractor pulling. But again, Fortune's heck of a lot of them in Australia, from petrol Kero E27Ns right through to the Power Major, the Super Major, the Dexters. They had a whole raft of tractors and they sold them right around Australia and New Zealand. Another Cowley roller coming up. 1932. made in Ballarat. Out of the Eureka Ironworks, the factory is still there. You can drive past it in Eureka Street. Miller's Engineering, in more latter terms, owned by the Scobie family out of Ballarat. Beautiful Cowley roller ticking away. Obvious what it did, made roads. Could have driven a rock crusher or something different there as well. City of Ballarat, I think, had this one for a long, long time. The Howard, another little tractor that's sold in Australia prolifically in the flower growing industry. For those people who don't know, most of Australia's flowers came out of Moorabbin, Keysborough, and was right around the Kingston Heath golf club. They had a rotary hoe that went on the back and a couple of other attachments with those little GH22 tractors. And down around that area of Keysborough, Moorabbin, they absolutely were hundreds of those tractors in the hothouses growing flowers. And believe it or not, we used to export those flowers out of the country, even back in the 60s, 70s and 80s. Now, of course, it's all housing estates. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our grand parade here, the 124th rally at Lake Goldsmith. Hope you've had a great day. I hope to see you coming back here for years and years to come. And thanks very much for your attendance. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm refund.